Well, welcome back to another episode of Cinematic Perspective with myself, Wyatt Weed.
And I'm Gil Poznansky.
I'm Gayle Gallagher.
My Gayle Gallagher.
How are you guys doing? It's been a crazy week.
Yes, it has been a crazy week. It's been a crazy week because we're used to work and we work hard, and we've been working on this personal two-person shoot, and that's been going really well. And it's hard work, but it's hard work on our terms. And this week has been, after a long delay, we've gone back to work for clients. So today in particular was like, get up early, like really early, load the truck with all the film equipment, go to a client's location, film all day with a client, and then come home and unload the gear. And if you haven't done that in a few months...
It's been what? It's been about 4 months.
Yeah, and you think, I'm staying in shape, I'm healthy, I can do this. And it's like, back to the real world again. But we have a fall of production coming up, so this was kind of a nice, dip our toe back in. But no, things have been good. There's a really fascinating project that we've been working on the side. We have like 3 things going at once, like most people do. There's this film we made back in 2003 called Guardian of the Realm, which my friend Ted Smith directed. And
did you co-write it?
I co-wrote it and was the first AD and the editor and a bunch of other stuff. And so was Ted. We all wore multiple
Hold on a second.
hats.
Ted
Have you
Smith,
seen this film?
we know that name. Yeah, I've
Evil
got a
Ted.
copy of it right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Evil Ted,
Well,
I was going to say, Ted Smith is Evil Ted Smith.
He is Evil Ted Smith, the cosplay guru.
Guru.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Guardian of the Realm.
I've definitely seen Guardians of the Realm because the last time we actually were in the same space, we shared our work, and you gave me a copy of it, and I have it in the next room. It's a very interesting film, not as in interesting bad, but there's a lot of themes in that ended up very similar to like Buffy the Vampire Slayer that ended up becoming hugely popular around the world. And I was just like, why wasn't there Guardians of the Realm Slayer? And why didn't that get a TV show? That's what I want to know.
I'll tell you what, that's an interesting question. And what happened was that Guardian, I think, should have been, everybody feels that their film should be hugely, spectacularly successful. But Guardian, it really was in that early phase of the digital revolution, the digital technology. I mean, it was,
right.
We were making a digital feature in the early 2000s at a time where not a lot of people were racing right out and doing digital features. And then what happened is, of course, the traditional story. It gets picked up by a distributor who basically treats it like shit and dumps it out,
Yeah, no marketing, no promotion whatsoever.
Yeah, and misrepresentation of the film and not a good transfer and color correction and
I'm going to stop you for a minute. The misrepresentation of this film was that when signing the distribution deal, what was it? You guys had consultation on the art?
Meaningful consultation on the box art.
Which basically meant, too bad for you. And
it meant we'll show it to you. You have nothing to say about it, but we'll show it to you.
And the cover art that they went with looks like something that somebody pulled out of a filing cabinet and went, oh, hey, let's use this one. This will sell. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the film. It's literally not even an image or a character from the movie. It was crazy.
And I said to them, this is misrepresentation. And they were like, well, marketing research has shown that this will sell well. And I'm like, yeah, if you print on the cover, buy this DVD and we'll give you lots of free money. I said, that'll probably sell the DVD too. It won't make it any more true. So they didn't use our special features. They didn't use our director's commentary. And what you learn is if you make a deal for X amount of dollars, their motivation is to make X amount of dollars plus one. They just want to recoup their cost and then line their pockets. They have no interest in going, oh, you spent this much money on the film? Well, we'll make sure we sell enough of these to recoup your money. No, they just want to make their money, and they don't care what the potential is. If it starts to become a profitable thing for them, they don't care. So anyway, Guardian came and went without much fanfare, and it was also, we will admit, it was in the early days of digital video to where we had a decent standard def camera that could do a lot of things, and we talked amongst the crew like, should we go to HD? Well, HD cameras were not readily available. They were still in the pipeline. We could have waited 6 months, a year, 18 months, and you learn very quickly. When it's time to make a project, you make the best choice you can.
With what you've got.
And then you move on.
Do you want to share what kind of camera it is? Because there's a funny story behind that camera last time we were speaking, because I happen to have that camera that was gifted to me, brand new.
Well, We shot Guardian of the Realm feature film on a Canon XL1S. Not a Canon XL1, but a Canon XL1S, the next generation of XL cameras. And by today's standards, you might be scratching your head and going, oh my God, that's such a primitive camera. No, by 2003 standards, that was a remarkable camera that shot in low light, that had a great selection of lenses, and then all things considered had really good image quality. And our director of photography, Yaron Levy, who's gone on to do really cool stuff, Yaron had shot another feature on it. And when we saw what he'd done with that other feature, it was remarkable. So we made the decision. It's like, yeah, HD cameras are in the pipeline, but this is our budget, and we have the budget now. And how long do we want to wait around? If you're waiting for the technology to improve, you're always waiting because it's always improving. Well, we pulled the trigger, we made this film standard def, and then all of a sudden we got left in the dust. Within a couple of years, HD was available to anyone who wanted it. So the movie was still good, and the movie still had exploitational qualities to it. But then the way they put it out in a 4:3 format with a letterbox, and it just never got the representation.
And it was never released digitally either, was it?
It was never released digitally. Well, our contract has expired. And in the beginnings of COVID, Ted and I and the executive producer, Bob Clark, had talked for years about, let's remaster Guardian. Because Ted, in the intervening years, had, this scene is too long, this scene is dumb, this doesn't make any sense, I'd like to trim this, I'd like to trim that. If I had a chance to do this over again, I would. And you never have time to do that kind of stuff. Well, the early days of COVID hit, and we lost like 3 or 4 jobs in a row, and suddenly had months ahead of us with no idea what was going to happen. And I immediately, maybe a week or two into the shutdown, I went, I'm going to remaster Guardian.
Right.
And I contacted Ted and I contacted Bob and I said, guys, Guardian remaster. And they're like, do it. And so I spent a couple of weeks rebooting these nearly 20-year-old files and reconnecting everything and recovering everything. And then I spent about 2 months going through and cleaning it up, fixing the color correction, making it true 16:9. It's still standard def, but now you can put in a DVD and it comes up 16:9 and it looks pretty. I've used a lot of the new technology to sharpen things up a little bit, and I've cleaned up some of the effects that by their standards. I did a special edition. I did a Star Wars special edition.
I think that's what's really interesting, because I know that at the start of COVID, you were sharing some of the stuff that you were doing for Guardians for this remaster. And it was practical stuff. So I know that you went and you did a practical effect of one of these creatures kind of, dissolving or burning off using steel wool and making a frame. So and that's I don't want to say it's a cheap effect, but it's something that everyone can do if you understand the basics of it. And it just takes it to another level, because you're not talking about a particle effect that you bought through, from some stock footage place. You're actually creating something for that is real. It's to get that effect, you're using physics. You can't really change the laws of physics. I feel like I'm Scotty here. Oh, Captain, you can't change the laws of physics. But what you end up getting for a little bit of time investment is something that's really unique to your project. And I remember seeing that going, oh man, I just wish I was in the room with Wyatt and we'd be just playing with fire, let it burn.
Well, no,
we can edit this part.
You make a good connection, and something that I'd like to talk more about specifically is just that effort that you can put in, and that love and tender loving care and attention to quality and detail. So anyway, long story short, Guardian of the Realm is completed, and now it has all the special features, the behind-the-scenes stuff. It has the commentary that Ted and I did, and we're getting ready to screen it at a local convention here in the United States, and we're going to start talking. We're going to meet with Ted in a few weeks and talk about a release approach or a release plan, and it's going to be available streaming for the first time. So it's really, really exciting. But what has been interesting is, in preparing for this convention, it's interesting because people ask questions, and you just talked about, oh, you did this practical effect, and you burned steel wool and in the shape of a character, and then you superimposed the burning shape over the character and made the character burn up. I am amazed. I feel like right now I am swimming in a sea of filmmakers and people who don't want to put effort into anything, who don't want to work hard, who don't understand that anything creative or anything that you care about or anything that's an artistic pursuit, it's work. It's fun, it's fulfilling, it's thrilling, it's wonderful. But it's like everything else. It's work. And
it's funny, I've got a screensaver on my desktop downstairs, and it says, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah. And so and what has exacerbated all of this is that in addition to finishing up the remaster on Guardian and getting it ready for streaming and getting the DVDs ready, and Gayle and I sometimes working our butts off at night and trying to race and hit a deadline and learning a program and trying to do something. We're working so hard, and there's like no money coming in for this just yet. Well, I'm getting ready, also at the same convention, I'm getting ready to do a panel on fan films. Because I've done fan films, I have a lot of friends who've done fan films, we've talked about fan films. And the crazy thing about fan films is that I'm communicating with people all over the world. Because of some of the fan films I've worked on, I get fans from literally all over the world contacting me on Facebook and asking me questions. And they ask my opinion. And all the time it's, well, how would you do this? And I tell them how I would do it. And I'd say 9 out of 10 times the response is, oh, well, that sounds really difficult. That sounds like a lot of work.
Oh,
and
wow.
then,
Seriously?
Yeah. And how would you build this prop? Well, I would build this prop like, I think they think my answer is going to be, well, I'd 3D print it. Or, I'd get somebody to give it to me. But my answer sometimes is
Wyatt,
like...
don't shame me, because that is my answer. No. Look at these machines behind me. I'm like, oh, God, 3D printer. No.
Well, no. I mean...
But you have access to that.
You have access to that, and that's one of your abilities. There are things I would do one way, and you would do it, though. That's the thing. You would do it. I think people are just amazed sometimes that my suggestions aren't, oh, push a button, and this thing will just shoot out and appear. And it's really frustrating.
Hi, I'm Gayle Gallagher with the Cinematic Perspective Podcast. I love movies. I love music, I love movies, and I hang out with other nerds who also love movies. As if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you do as well. And so many times when my friends and I are hanging out, somebody will quote a movie or a song or just say something funny, and I think, oh my God, that should be on a t-shirt. So I started the Alley Clothing Company so that I could share these fun designs with you. And also because one of my goals in life is to save the world, and I know that I can't do it on my own, we partner with different organizations who are saving the world. So go to thealleyclothingco.com. That's THE, alleyclothingco.com. Use promo code PODCAST for 20% off your first purchase.
One of the things that I've noticed, just since we're talking about 3D printing and the idea, especially from filmmakers that are like, just 3D print it, is this idea of using your strengths. So one of the things that I love, especially when I'm watching your work, even when I came to visit and we were in your office and you turn from your editing station to your model making station and the props you were making and you're pulling stuff out and showing it to me, was the fact that I would sit there and go, wow, 90% of the work's done. I might just need a little tchotchke that I can't find on the walls of Walmart for a couple of bucks. Yeah. That's where I'm going to turn to the 3D printer, right? That's where I can, and if I need to make 200 of those things, well, I'm not going to go and print 200 of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print one, polish it up, get it ready, cast it, and then cast 200, and I can do 200 in an hour with 2 or 3 molds, as opposed to a printer that's going to take 2 hours to make one. And again, right. It's knowing your strengths, especially when you're filmmaking at an independent level. It's all about working out what's the fastest way to get to the result. And, because it is so much work on so many different fronts, you don't want to get bogged down. Now, if you're in a professional production and they're paying people and, you've got an art department and a prop department that's going to spend pretty much most of the time, getting stuff to look perfect, building your Batmobile, building, working lights and everything to sell it, that's fine, because you can go off and you can do the big picture if you're the director, or if you're the cinematographer, you can just work in your department. But if you're not, you've got to get really, really clever with that. And recently you posted up on Facebook, working on this 2-person film, that you needed a bag of ashes for one of the scenes. And the answer was to go outside to the driveway, take a colander or some sort of I don't
Straining
know,
device, yeah.
they call them colanders here, and I was trying to think of it, and like literally scoop up a whole lot of dirt and then sift it and take all the fine stuff and put it in a plastic bag, take a little metal thing that came with some vegetables or whatever, put it on the top, and then you're done. And I'm just like, there are so many people I know who would have been like, dear mortuary, do you have any, like, because it has to be real. Like, you're just creating enough there for people to fill in the difference, and it's so amazing because when you go on, if you're lucky enough to go onto a set and pick something up, and they're like, dude, this is duct tape and spray paint, it's wet, and I'm like, all I needed for it is this one shot, and you know what? The person who is viewing it will put in the rest of it. Now, if I need to do a close-up of whatever it is, yes, we need to sell it enough. And I just remember when HD, you were talking about HD cameras, came in, news department here in Australia, I happened to be doing some work for them, and they got this new camera, and they're like, we gotta tear down the set. This set's been here since like the 70s, and we can see all the problems on the camera. We gotta work out another answer. So it's again just understanding where that is. Whether it's you're going to do a 3D printed answer and just run every piece that way, or if you're going to go and use that, use the facility that you have to be able to go and actually create what you need in the fastest way possible. And that's something that I just bang my head into all the time. People go, hey, I want to print out actually, I've been talking to Wyatt about a model that I want to make as a shooting model to get back into practicing some of the cinematography skills that I have. And we were talking about how do we mount ports on this model that happens to be 3D printed, so that I can actually attach it to an arm or to a boom to put it in front of a screen. And originally it was like, well, you know what? I'm going to take some of the equipment that I have for cameras and I'm going to use the standard 14-inch mounts because they've got gimbals on them, so I can move it a little bit and that'll all fit in. And then I was like, okay, so now I'm going to have to go to my workshop. I'm going to get a metal plate. I'm going to ream it. I'm going to tap it. And I went, hang on a second. I got a 3D printer. I can 3D print a plastic plate with the threads in it. And I don't have to now go into a workshop. And especially with the lockdown here, it's going to take some time. I can keep moving. And you know what? If that thread gets worn out, I can just print another one. So in that case, because it's not load bearing, it's not something that needs to hold any weight, it's not going to hold the camera, it's just going to hold this plastic model, I'm actually able to create something that keeps me moving. And I guess that's really kind of what I wanted to share with that idea of, do we just 3D print everything? Or I've had ex-girlfriends say to me, why do we keep going to Walmart all the time? You don't buy anything, you just walk down the aisles. And I'm like, because I'm actually cataloging what's available. Because if I know what's available, then I can go and take this that's like, a cat carrier, and I can turn it into this for my film. And I've got another level of storytelling there because I can show it and just not talk about it. And yeah.
Oh my gosh. For me, hardware stores, just walking through a hardware store, because for the most part in a hardware store, half the stuff I don't know what it's for anyway. So I'm looking at it with that different perspective of, ooh, I'm trying to make this one thing, and yeah, that'll do it. And I've gone into hardware stores before just for different costume pieces and stuff, and I've gone in and just told the guy there, I'm like, okay, here's what I need, something that can be bent like this and do that. And he's like, what about this? And he'll take me to that aisle, and I'm like, this is perfect. I don't know what it is, but this is perfect.
If you get the right guy, because sometimes you walk into the hardware store, I have a tendency to, well, can I help you? Well, I'm looking for this. Well, what are you using it for? I'm like, forget about what I'm using it for, because I don't want to have that whole discussion with you, because then they get inspired and they get creative, and then they start trying to make suggestions. It's like, I want this.
See, but that's the difference between you and I is that you walk into the hardware store knowing what you want, where I walk into the hardware store with the outcome that I want.
Right.
So if somebody can make the suggestions for me.
And you're far more social than I am.
This is true.
You're far more willing to talk to people.
You can be kind of an ass, yeah.
Yeah. When I'm done, I'm like, get out of my way. I want to go be creative. But anyway.
We don't have Walmart here. So for me, when I'm in the US or in the Northern Americas, I love Walmart. Like, Walmart to me is like a really cost-effective way of kind of going, what do I need? But I will share this kind of story because recently on Facebook, they've been posting around, like, say one word of how we met and what you remember of me. And in Australia here, We should get actually sponsorship for saying the name, but there's an adult bookstore chain that's kind of trying to, well, they're successful in not making it sleazy. So it's not like one of those places where you got to sneak in. And, you know, so years ago, I was seeing someone and she's like, hey, I'm going to meet my friend at this place. Do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. So we go in there and they happen to have I'm going to clean this up, a device to help males. And I took one look at it and it was devised as like a modular kind of gun type thing. And I've just gone, oh, cool. And I'm walking around with this thing in my hand, completely oblivious to what people might be thinking, and just like super happy because I was working on a short film and I needed some sort of different looking handgun for a futuristic sci-fi piece. And like obviously what the people who have made this thing have gone.
So you had a male enhanced gun?
Yeah, but all I wanted was the handle, the trigger, and all the rest. I could build upon it, and there was nothing that I had seen before. And literally, it came up in this Facebook group message, and it's like, the name of this thing, your enjoyment when you discovered this. And of course, everyone's like, what? What's Gayle, talking about? What happened here? And I'm like, you have to give this context. Other people are going to think I'm a pervert. And she's like, I've never seen someone go into an adult bookstore and get so excited to find something to make a prop for a film. And I'm like, and everyone, yeah, that's Gayle. That's Gayle. So, I remember leaving and the person that I knew at the time, my friend, that dragged me down there said, you are pretty amazing because you're walking around completely oblivious to what it looks like, and you had people following you. And kind of making eyes at you, and you were like, oh, whatever. How much is it? Oh, that box one is broken. Can I get that a little cheaper? Because they're like, yeah, sure. No, it's good. And like they were like, there's an enjoyable childlike quality to you when you get excited about the things that you're passionate about. And I'm going to leave it there, because I don't want to get myself in trouble any further.
I was gonna say, because you just kind of ended on excited child
Passionate.
in an adult shop. And I was like,
I know, and I was just like
so many things wrong with that statement.
But again, it's so interesting because once you start thinking in that way, again, I've had friends of mine who have nothing to do with the film industry but know my passion for it, and they will go in and they'll watch me and they go, you have an incredible gift to look at something that is sold for something, a purpose. It's, a stick-on light, and you will turn it in a very artistic way into something else. And something we don't even expect. And the fact that you can think out of the box is like one of the biggest strengths that you have. And that's something that you hone as a filmmaker, especially independent filmmaker. Sure. It's, I need this result. How do I do this? And I don't know. I know that Wyatt, you've also made with Guardian of the Realm and other sort of short films, science fiction based stuff. Batman, I would say, is the same. When you're creating an environment to tell your story, it's a huge, huge undertaking compared to going, hey, I'm just going to go here and film. Like, here's a room that's set up. It's going to answer my questions. And I'm like, one of the biggest kind of successes that I had as a student filmmaker was I always wanted a hallway that I could dress that said, we're in the future. And I would go into places and start working. What can I put on the walls? What can I touch? What can I do to these things to be? And it is a huge commitment. And it's not a one-person commitment. So my final university film had this huge big ending with it was in a space station, and the main character's girlfriend's taken by these raiders, and the idea was, the shot was that one head's here and one head's here, and there's a fishbowl, and they finally get to each other, and then she starts drifting back, and you realize the fishbowl is the hatch of another ship that's just detached. And it was going to be this huge big thing, and I needed this fishbowl. And this guy's like, no problems, I'll get it for you. I can do it. I'm a film producer. I can get this done. And on the day of shooting, it didn't come through. And everything we were building to, it was just like a quick turnaround, whip to camera. It's like, she'll be back. And I was like, it completely deflated that. And to this day, this person has gone on to be a producer in the industry, not terribly successfully, but like every time he's like, we should work together. And I'm like, we did. And you had one job, and your commitment is like, I will never kind of put myself on the line like that again. It was really one of the rare times that I was like, I can't get this done with everything else that I'm doing. And again, you know, and it was like, well, you know what? I asked around and I didn't realize it was going to be big. And it was like, where's the conversation? Where's the thing? You let me hang out to dry. I called you 2 days beforehand and you guaranteed it to me. So you were playing the role. But the truth of the matter is, your word is not your bond. And in fact, that sort of reputation goes on. So, you know, going back to what you were saying, Wyatt, it is hard work, but it is awesome work. And, you know, Gayle, you were sharing with me before, or with us before, that you have a screensaver. I have a mirror, and on it I etched with a laser. I've actually got the mirror here. You guys can see. You see the screen here. Because are you trying to look good, or are you playing to win? Like, what's going on? And I think that's a pretty amazing thing. So in the morning when I get ready, I'm always reminding myself, what is it that I want to do? Do I just want to talk the talk, or do I want to cross that line and kind of win what it is that I'm setting out to succeed? And I think that is so important, especially in the area that we're working within, because it's so easy to say, hey, you know what? I can get that for you, or I can do that, or you know what? I'm going to turn up. I'll give you a hand. And then, you know, people just stand around. They don't help. They don't want to jump in. And then you get those people who are such gold, absolute gold, who don't only just jump in, but they'll jump in the car with you when you're returning the equipment that you just hired, or they're like, hey man, I'll be there an hour earlier and let's go and grab some, you know, or go get lunch. I'll get coffees for everyone. Those little tiny things, they're the people who end up working up the chain. And you hear these stories of people who start off as gophers and they end up becoming directors. And during their whole career, people have learnt what they're willing to do, and they're willing to do equal or more for them in return when they get an opportunity.
Right.
Well, and I think that those people too, the person that we were kind of talking about this at one point, that they're willing to, or was this earlier today? Anyway, the people that are willing to start there at the bottom and be the gopher and the runner and the PA and do all the crap jobs, they're learning all of those jobs, and then they have a much greater appreciation when they've moved up the food chain and they have the PA that is going to go run coffee. They appreciate that much more than somebody who just kind of jumped in and went, well, I'm a director. Yeah. I think that just having that background.
Yeah. There's a great famous story about James Cameron when he was shooting Aliens. Wyatt's laughing. I think you probably know the story.
I'm probably thinking of a whole different James Cameron quote, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, probably not that one. But there was a scene in Aliens where one of the facehuggers is running to get Ripley and Newt. And the way they actually created the facehuggers were they're on wheels, and as the wheels would go around, the legs would scuttle. And the guy who had to pull the cable was doing it with his hands. And when you pull a cable fast, it actually puts a lot of you can damage your hands. It's kind of very painful. That's why when you abseil, you can't do it. I always watch those movies and people jump off buildings with their hands and they grab the rope, and I'm like, you wouldn't have any skin left. Like, it's just not practical. It's a little bit like when people fall off motorcycles and they're just in jeans and t-shirts and they get up and they're like, there's not a mark on them. And I'm like, you would rip off your clothes and half your skin and you'd be naked by the time you finish, but that's another story altogether. So James Cameron was like, he's shooting it and he's like, the facehugger's not moving fast enough. And I remember the story was, he moved away from the camera. He like yelled at this guy. He goes, listen, man, you can't do this without gloves. You've got to be able to do this. And he just said, get out of the way. I'm going to show you. And he did the shot himself. And again, while there was a lot of tension on set, and James Cameron is very, very well known for like kind of yelling at people and berating people, but they understand that's part of his process. And I think years later, they found out he's hyperglycemic. So if he ate something sweet, he also got incredibly cranky and no longer eats anything sweet, on set at least. But that idea of knowing what everyone does. So as the director or as the head of a department, you can go, cool, man, let me show you what I want, as opposed to expecting someone else to just know about it. And I think that's so important. And something that I really enjoy when Wyatt and I talk about projects is, you don't have to be an expert in every area, but if you have a general understanding and some real cool skills in this area, in this area, in this area, you can put that stuff together. You can actually have those conversations. And my pet peeve is when people come to me and say, how would you do this? Just like the people were saying about the props. And I tell them, and then they'll go, I don't think I'll do it. And then they come back and go, you were right. I spoke to about 4 other people and they said exactly the same thing you said. And you're kind of like, did you not trust me? Like, why did you ask me in the first place? They're like, oh, I was taking a census. And someone once said to me, they said, don't take it personally, Gil. I go, no, it's cool, man. I'll take it as a group, the same way you asked the group the same question all over. It's like, no problems, man.
I want to jump back a minute to the having a different perspective when we walk through hardware stores and different Walmart.
Yeah.
That I think, for me, as Gil was talking about that, for me, I think that was kind of instilled in me from my mom. Because when I was young, my mom built me a dollhouse, which is now her dollhouse because she got so into doing the miniatures and stuff. But mom would walk around different places and look at different things and go, ooh, I could use this for this thing. So like the cap from a bottle of dishwashing liquid, she ended up putting fabric on and making into a really neat little bedside table. It's just, it was the initial shape of it. And so many different things. She took skills that she had learned doing basket weaving classes and learned how to cane a little chair. And so, yeah. I think
all the pizza delivery in the United States used to have this little white thing in the center of the pizza.
With three prongs?
With three legs that kept the lid from smashing the pizza. And those were the little scale dining, the little tables in the miniature cafe or the miniature restaurant or whatever. I left the house the other day to go to... I had several stores in mind. Here in the United States, Home Depot, Michael's Art Supply. I had several stores in mind. I'm working on a project for a friend. I'm making him a few special props. And he's got a general art director and a production designer and a general prop person. But these were specialty props. There were like 3 specialty props. And he's like, these I want you to build. And I said, I will build these for you. So Chris Grega, and he's making a film called Red Night at Skies. And one of the things he wants is, like the classic in the zombie film, they're animal catchers, but a man catcher with a pole with a loop on the end that you can grab the zombie. And okay, he wants a man catcher. And, you could probably adapt a large size animal catching device, but they're beyond $100 and not quite the right thing. And we wanted it human safe. So I left the house thinking I need a long metal pole and I need something to create the loop and I need something to create some grip handles. And half of my day was spent walking through Home Depot going, okay, galvanized pipes. Are there aluminum pipes? There are aluminum pipes. The aluminum pipes, I ended up over in the closet department and I found this 6-foot long pole.
Like a hanger rod.
Like a hanger rod that was lightweight, that was metal, that was perfectly the right diameter. And then I go to Michael's and I'm looking through Michael's and I'm thinking it's one thing, that it's nylon webbing, strapping material. And then all of a sudden I stumble into the leather section and there's like this pre-cut belt material rolled up in a package. I'm like, that's perfect because it's wide and it's flat and I can pad the inside. So yeah, just that creative process of walking through Home Depot, like, I know I need a man catcher. What? And then I ended up with this really beautiful neoprene rubber tube that's designed for plumbing pipe insulation. And there's the spongy foam ones. No, this was like black neoprene. It was nice and thick. And I got a length of that, which is going to go over and get cut off, and those will be the handles.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to, and I've started working on this thing, and I'm working on a pull cord to make it pull tight. I can't wait to get a photo of me with the man catcher around Gayle's neck. And then we're going to take that photo and send it to the director. We're going to send it to Chris. And I'm not even going to say anything. It's just, he'll know what I'm talking about. So
now, I just, one of the things that I also do, and I've had to stop doing it because my partner hates that I do this, is I collect garbage. I collect packaging. I collect things that are interesting that I will use down the track. And I again, very early in this relationship, we went walking and someone had thrown out display cabinets for like Leatherman. Like, so you go into a store and they would have like, this, what do you call it? Acrylic type display case. And I was like, oh, I could use that. Absolutely. And we were walking with these 2 display cases. And as we got further and further along with them, the anger started building. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, you can't just keep these things here. Like, you've got to use them. And I'm like, I'm sure they will come in handy because this, she's like, you don't even have the keys. I'm like, I can get this open. And the promise was if I couldn't use it within a month, I'd have to get rid of it. It's been 5 years and I haven't used it yet. But I'm always like, I'm gonna move it into the storage facility. I promise you, I will. And she's seen me walk past piles of trash that people are throwing out, and I'll look at something, I'll look around, and she goes, "What do you want to take?" And I'm like, "Nothing. It's okay. I'm just curious at seeing."
That's okay. I don't want to take anything. I don't need anything. It's all good.
Well, and we've had to what's the word I'm looking for? Have self-restraint at times that we would buy something and it would come with really cool packaging and it would have these vacuum form and there'd be multiples of them, and Wyatt's like, oh my God, that's like the coolest interior of a spaceship wall. If only we had a warehouse space. And so because we were living in such a tiny apartment, we're like, okay, we'll come across something like that again. That one goes to the recycle.
So my answer to that is kind of sort of, which is, I remember in Los Angeles, I stockpiled. And when we were working on a couple of space films, a couple of things where we needed sets, yes, then it was like boxes of stuff in my apartment, boxes of stuff in my office, stuff piled up on the soundstage. There was this rotational casting company around the corner from the soundstage. So like you get a big, old-fashioned, high-powered flashlight in the big, huge plastic casing with the handle built into the plastic casing. Well, that has to be rotational casted. And there's all these plastic units that they have to have, this hot plastic injected into them, and then it rotates until it fills all in. Well, all the rejects had been thrown in the dumpster of this company. So we would go over there at night with a pickup truck and literally dumpster dive and throw all this stuff in the back of the pickup truck and take it back to the stage. And then after like a month of dumpster diving, we had hundreds and hundreds of pieces. So we would take these pieces and go, okay, here's 6 flashlight halves, let's put those there. Here's 10 of these black things, let's put those there. And then we had like a supply of different things. So we had general production design of the sets, but then we knew we had the basic shapes, then we knew we needed nurnies and details here and there. So then we'd go through and go, okay, take 2 of these, put them back to back, that's an energy generator. Put these together, those are the motivator units on the power doors, and put one of those on each door. And so, yeah, but I haven't done that since Los Angeles. And I start stockpiling things, and sometimes I find a really ultimate, cool, unique thing that I do put aside, but that's like 1 in 100. The rest of it, God forbid if we ever get the soundstage that I want. Because if we ever get the soundstage that I want,
warehouse.
There will be a part of it that'll be like bin for plastic food containers, bin for metal bits, bin for this.
Yep.
Some of the props I'm working on for Chris Greger right now, I've brought back some old bins from storage that haven't been gone through, and there were just circuit boards and electronic parts in these things. And I had this one prop that had an open back on it. It was an electronic device, and so I'm pulling out circuit boards and putting them in there and mounting them in place. And
for the visual aspect, not
for the visual aspect. No, it makes no
100%.
Logical electronic sense.
You used a word a little bit ago. Define.
Nurnies?
Yeah.
Nurnies and greeblies. Nurnies and
Greeblies?
Yeah.
Australia's British, so it's Gribblies for us.
Greeblies?
Okay. Which for people who don't know, the Nurnies and the Greeblies are, the Millennium Falcon is essentially a flat circular shape with 2 mandibles out the front and a cockpit offset. That's the shape. All the engine vents, all the little panels, all the little pipes, that's all the Nurnies. That's the Nurnies.
All the detail.
And that's them going through a tank kit and pulling all these little pieces and going into a jet airplane or a car and pulling out all these little pipes.
The
and
model
all these
kits,
little,
right?
Yeah. And so, sometimes that gets overstated. I mean, I don't think
Star
they
Crash?
literally... Well, Star Crash, that's a whole different story. They put whole model runners full of parts on the side and sprayed it silver and then lit it with colored lights. I have to give Star Crash credit. Because the story is that they had I don't believe the hype. The story is they had 48 hours to make all the spaceships. I don't believe that. But they had a very short window of time and very little money, and they made these pretty cool shapes. And then they just covered them wholesale with model parts. I mean, you watch the film and the spaceships go by camera and you're like, there's part of a Saturn V, there's part of a Space 1999 Eagle, there's part of a submarine, there's part of a tank, there's this, there's that. I mean, there's no attempt to hide this stuff.
And did they literally take the sheet of parts
The
that
sheet,
still
yeah.
had all the
Yes.
plastic bits
Yes.
holding it together and just
Yes.
And I actually had a student film where I had to make a futuristic, kind of like a doorkeeper, kind of not. I didn't want to do the robot kind of eye out of Return of the Jedi, so it had to be kind of something that was sentient and talked. And out of kind of tribute to Star Crash, I bought a whole bunch of models and I took the sprues and I layered them one upon another, cut out an area for a light, like a lit up eye.
That would be
simply,
cool.
Yeah. To give it a bit of depth, and you could shoot it from different angles and things like that. But again, it was kind of like, let's just Star Crash it. Let's we need this. Let's just smash this out. Let's get this going. Let's make it work. I think we used a mag light. When mag lights used to be popular, you used to be able to have a red filter, so you could pop it on with a plastic piece. That became the eyepiece. We sprayed it, put a few little pieces on that, and just pop the light in the back to illuminate it. Yeah, there's an art to being able to put all those pieces together, but as you were saying, the packaging and all that sort of stuff can be used. I mean, again, famous stories of going and getting the hotcakes from McDonald's, those hotcake styrofoam, and then hot gluing them to walls to create textures for I think
Did
it was.
you guys do something like that in Star Runners?
Hey, this is Wyatt from the Cinematic Perspective podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast, then you know that Gayle and I are part of a company called Pirate Pictures, and we make movies. So I wanted to take a moment and tell you about some of the movies we've made and how you can see them. My first feature film as a writer-director was Shadowland. It's the story of a vampire that was staked through the heart, buried, and left for dead in 1897, but then is accidentally uncovered and awakened in modern day. Laura, the vampire, suffers from amnesia and has no idea who she is, or even that she is a vampire. Shadowland is an independent film that was shot in the St. Louis area, and I'm very proud of it. You can buy or rent Shadowland at piratemediagroup.net. It's weird how things have advanced over the years, like getting ready to do a costuming panel, the history of costuming. And it's weird how in the 1970s, we were like trying to find these things. Like, how did you build the USS Enterprise? How did you build the Space 1999 Eagle? And it was like specialty industrial stuff that was like available to the industrial community and the architecture field. And then that stuff slowly started to trickle down to like the hobby shops. So then in like the 1980s, it was like, oh, I can go to the hobby shop and I can buy all these specific scale girders and trusses and struts and stuff.
The Plastrut stuff and the EMA tubings and all those sort of things. And yeah, I have a good relationship with the industry because I always want to go in there and say, hey, I'm trying to work this out. Dental industry is a big one. When you're trying to find alginate or something that you can reuse, I've got a big jar of water-based, it's almost like a jelly, but it goes hard, so you can then put in plaster to make it a shape and then build upon it, and you can reuse that over and over and over again. That's a product that came out of going into a dental warehouse and saying, I want to do some casting, what's the options?
Well, and even in Los Angeles, like the dental industry, like somewhere along the line, somebody discovered, oh, this really works well for the special effects industry. And I'm sure initially the dental industry was like, well, yeah, I can sell you that. But, and then the dental industry caught on in LA and now they cater to dentists, but they also cater to the film industry. And they started carrying massive supplies of things. So now, any kid, when I was building costumes back in the 70s, I had to wait for an old couch or an old chair, and I had to strip the cloth off and save the foam cushion, this nasty old dirty foam cushion that people have been sitting on for 20 years. And that's how I made costumes. Now I go into Michael's art supply,
Amazing.
And there's Evil Ted brand cosplay items on this shelf, which, good job, Ted. But I'm like, I'm so happy for the kids these days because, in the 70s you got frowned at and somebody looked at you and were like, you want to build what? And nowadays you've got kids with laser cutters and milling machines and 3D printers, and there's a whole industry catering to them and going, well, if Olivia Munn can dress up like a character and go to Comic-Con, I can dress up like who I want to. And yeah, I mean, the technological advance is just a boon for young people. And I want to come back around to RoboCop. And I'm sorry, I wrote it down as RoboCop, but it's not really about RoboCop. I want to go way back to a justification about 3D printing, because yes, 3D printing is your thing. But there's a big difference between
Don't blame me. I didn't say
no.
it was my thing. You said it was my thing. I show you some of the things that I do. I'm not saying it's my thing. It's just it's another tool in the repertoire.
Right, it's a tool. Yes, it's a tool. Because if you want Han Solo's blaster hanging on your wall as a display piece, yes, by all means, you 3D print it. Because you want one and you want a hero version. If you want a Battlestar Galactica blaster, you 3D print one and then you have it. If you need to make a Star Wars film and you got an actor running around and that damn thing needs to actually fire blanks, you're going to go and buy an actual, Mauser and actually rig the thing to fire blanks. And then you're not going to give the actor a 3D printed one. You're going to take the 3D printed one, you're going to do a mold of it, and then you're going to do hard rubber versions because you know that actor's going to drop it 16 times and bang it off the wall. So I was talking to somebody recently, and they wanted to recreate a RoboCop costume. And they said, oh, I'm just going to 3D print it. I'm like, you're going to 3D print the entire RoboCop suit, the weight? And, I know the 3D printing material is tough, but then those pieces banging into each other, and you're walking, and edges clacking, and paint getting... well, what would you do? Well, I would maybe do the helmet 3D printed, but I would do the rest foam construction with rubber pieces, and what did I get? Oh, that sounds really hard.
But that was what he knew.
That was what he knew, but like Gil said, tools. Knowing these tools, the answer is not. When I was in shop class in the 7th grade, my shop instructor told us this brilliant story about working in South America. And he said they were driving these massive trucks up these mountain roads in South America. And he said, and the truck would break down. And he said, this was a giant Terex Titan truck. And he said, these things would break and need adjustment. And he said, this gigantic bolts. And they would bring out this crescent wrench. There was this 4-foot long crescent wrench that they would set, and 2 guys would crank on a bolt. He said, but then something in the cab would break, and it would be a little 1/2-inch nut or something, and they'd go and get the big-ass giant crescent wrench because that was the tool.
What they knew. Yeah.
That was what they knew.
Yeah.
So yeah, if your response to I need the Batmobile full size, I'll 3D print it. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you could 3D print the Batmobile full size.
No, you would definitely not. You wouldn't print it. You would go to Wyatt and say, "Can you make this for me?"
Yeah.
But look, it's a really good point, and I understand. Look, for what it's worth, 3D printers are prototypers. They are used for costumes and all the rest of it. If you're working on a film, my mind would be if you want to make a RoboCop suit and you want to shoot it, you're going to have at least 3 or 4 versions of it because you're going to break things. You are going to break things. One of the things that I built a few years ago for a project was a Dalek. I built him out of fiberglass. He actually fell at one point and the fiberglass broke. Now, fiberglass is incredibly resilient. You can stretch it, but everything has a point where it will break. You put enough energy into something. That's why you can take a piece of metal and just when you start wiggling it, it just gets looser and looser, and eventually it'll break. So, my suggestion would be very similar to what you say. You can paint things up that look completely to match completely. Use foam. If you need some pieces, I would even suggest using a 3D printer to prototype those pieces, and if you're going to put a hard piece on a foam piece, you can actually foam mold it. It's not very expensive. You can make plaster casts and then just mix up some foam, stick it in your oven, and you've got a piece of foam that will join. You can cut it, you can blend it in. It's not going to be a problem. Again, it comes to the experience people have with different things. Years ago,
there were RoboCop suits that were polyurethane, that were firm polyurethane, but they were flexible, and there's shots of him rolling off of stuff and falling onto concrete, and then you hear kabang, and he falls. He was not in a hard suit. He was in a soft stunt suit. It just sounded really good, and it looked good. I'm sure if you studied it frame by frame, you could find some parts that bend and flex, but yeah.
the information to do all of this is out there, especially now in 2021. I remember 1990 coming across a web page, and it was the person who was making the foam stop motion animation foam puppets for it was a Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah.
I was going to say Robot Chicken, but it was Celebrity Deathmatch, and she took a video camera, a VHS video camera, and recorded the whole process, and you could buy the tape. And I remember contacting her and saying, "Is it in NTSC or is it in VHS? Is it in PAL? VHS is something else." And she's like, "Why?" I go, "I'm in Australia." And she's like, "Oh, okay. No, it's in NTSC." I said, "That's not a problem. I just wanted to make sure, paid the money, sent a check because we didn't have PayPal back in the day. Got an American bank check. The tape comes in and I watch it and I go, wow, I never knew the process of molding, self-foaming foam that you could do at home." And of course, this person, I forgot her name now, she was so lovely. She sent a list of where to get all the materials from in the US, right? And then my job was, because you can't send liquid material across, especially chemicals, was to try and find that here. So, there's so much information. Even just recently, I was kind of on a forum and I'm like, I have a whole bunch of Star Trek Next Gen props that I had built because I always thought it'd be cool to have like isolinear chips on my desk. I do that at work. I just leave them around and then someone always picks them up and goes, "Star Trek?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, I love Star Trek." And that starts a conversation. But I had a few things that I built, but I could never find the right gray to match what was done on the show. And I know that they used a certain Krylon color and they misted it silver and then they went to another formulation. Well, those colors are not available here. And it's very, very hard to go into, let's say, a color a color paint place and say to them, "I need this specific color and it has to match." And they go, "Why? What, can we be a little bit on? Can we be a little bit off?" So
they're thinking a wall in a house somewhere and they're thinking, it'll be close enough. Not knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, just paint the whole thing and no one's going to know. And a lot of those colors are, let's say, is it General Motors colors, which you can't get here in Australia. So the idea is you get something close enough or you mix your own paint. And I mean, I ended up getting something that's close enough, but it's not exact and I can live with it. But it's again, just knowing that process, knowing the process, understanding what's available, which is so empowering, not just for filmmakers, but just anyone who's creative. And, people say, all the time I get, "Hey, I want to do a 3mm base plate. I want to 3D print it. It's going to take 4 hours. Is there a way to do it faster?" I go, "Yeah, go to a laser cutter. We'll do it in 30 seconds. And they go, "What? But I'm using it for a 3D printed project." And I'm like, "Do you want it to be solid?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I go, "You want it to be strong? That's your base, right?" "Yeah." I go, "You're better off getting a piece of wood or a piece of acrylic and putting it in the laser cutter than spending 4 hours where with a 3D print, the infill is going to put gaps. And if you put too much stress," and they go, "You can do that?" I'm like, there's no rules. Just like in filmmaking, there's no rules as long as you get the result that you want. Right? So go to the adult sex shop and go and buy the thing and adapt the piece that you need. Or go to Walmart and or go into, or go take trash. Whatever you want to do. It's not, first of all, you get really cool stories and you get to share them on podcasts like this. But the other part about it is that you actually start flexing that creative muscle of yours. And that's why, we haven't done it. I think the next time we catch up, we've got to go to Walmart and start just chatting.
Oh,
like, "Hey, look at that. Look, we can do that. Oh, look at that."
Do you guys do you have Home Depot down there? Do you have like a giant?
We don't have Home Depot either. And there is a YouTube video that years ago, I met up with some people on a forum that creates film props called the Replica Prop Forum.
Oh, yeah.
And he was building a hand in carbonite. And I said, "Hey, I'm happy to be in Canada. Does anyone want to catch up?" He goes, "Well, if you want to come and help me, we'll do it." They took me to Home Depot and we were just goofing around with video cameras at the time. And they're like, "This guy looks like he's in Disneyland." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It's like, this piece I've been looking for in Australia. And I'm like I'm like, "Wow, 2-inch dowel. I'm gonna make the blaster or the laser gun from the black hole because that's what they used, and I can't get 2-inch diameter doweling because we're all in metric." So I can make something similar, but I can't make exact.
Right.
So, you know,
Right.
so I'm grabbing stuff and all these oh wow, look, smooth on kits for $20. A smooth on kit in Australia, the same $20 is $200 because of the cost of shipping that.
Sure.
Because it's
Wow.
a chemical, and then freight, and then all the rest of it. So when I would go and play with like Umu from Smooth On or their plastic, which I'm seeing a lot of people in America doing, because you can get it on Amazon for $20, a trial kit. And I was like, all right, I can make one prop, and it's going to cost me $200. And I'm going to make the mold, and I'm going to try it out one time so I understand how this white plastic stuff works.
Right.
And I'm just like, Home Depot, Smooth On. And they're like, what are you going to cast? I don't know. I'm just going to sniff this.
I'm going to cast something.
I'm just going to sniff it. But, you know, going back to Greblies and things like that, I had friends that would get a hold of movie props, and then they would make molds, and then they would kind of sell castings to fans from the original molds. And one of these companies, well, it was a company, but they were doing it on the side. They got the job to help set dress for K-12 The Widowmaker, which was a 2002 film. And you know, having a conversation with this person, he goes, when you see the scene, there are Star Trek assault phases, there are, you know, all these really famous things that they've used to make kind of like, and they're sprayed all black, so you can't, it's not picked out, but there's all these kind of really iconic pieces that, because they were like, they needed to do it cheap, and we had the molds, and we're just throwing resin in and doing half casts of everything and then just putting it up. So, you know, it is you do whatever you need to do to get the result. I think it is, and it's a lot of fun learning new techniques.
Steve Wang, the famous sculptor, filmmaker, designer. I was working with Steve Wang, and he wasn't saying this to me, but it was something that really left an impact on me. Well, Steve Wang was talking about, you know, there's this character, and, you know, he's organic in this way, and then he's got armor, and he's got this and that. He said, and then he's got these screws in his head. And he said, and I went up to this sculptor, and this sculptor was like carefully sculpting and smoothing a screw head in the character's head. And he's like, what are you doing? This is Steve Wang.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing? And the guy's like, well, the character has screws in his head. He said, don't sculpt the screws. He said, use screws. And he's like,
just put the screw straight in.
Almost like that wasn't, like, is that legal? Can you do that?
Yeah.
And Steve's like, yeah, go get some like fine scale brass screws and stuff. So yeah, I've done pieces where, like, you know, it's a character that I have to sculpt, but then this part is like textured like cloth. And I'm like, at a point, I go and get cloth and I glue the cloth on. And then like the character's gun is very organic, but then it has certain mechanical pieces on it. It's like, I don't sculpt the mechanical stuff. I attach that stuff. I would like to, you know, my temptation is to take to task, because this whole conversation started about my frustration with consulting with people online, and they ask me questions, and I give them answers, and the response is, oh, that's hard. And yes, again, we've all stated repeatedly during this last hour, it is hard. It is hard. But I don't think they've quite seen or embraced the joy of this yet, the pride. Yes, and you know that I'm not singling you out, Gil, but if you're a 3D printer and your answer to everything is 3D printing, that's cool. If you take on an attitude of, you know, opening up your horizons,
how dare you, sir?
Thinking about
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? I said good day, sir. So if you take on
That's
this
it.
attitude,
It's over. This stream's over. Done. We get out of here.
now it's all ruined.
It's all ruined.
But if you take on this attitude of like opening up your mind and your creativity to these different solutions, oh my God, on the projects that she and I have worked on, the different ways we've come up with to skin a cat, the different ways we've come up with, okay, here's our whole career here in St. Louis has been about, here's how we did it in LA. How can we do it here in St. Louis for less money with similar results? And we keep coming up with, you know, here's the principle, here's the concept. So, okay, if you want to make a fan film, just say as an example to what I've been so frustrated about, if you want to make a fan film, you know, just there are elements to things, and if it's a superhero and it's a certain dynamic character with a certain kind of costume in a certain kind of setting, if you don't get that dynamic character, if you don't have that costume and you don't have that setting, what are you doing it for? You know,
Right.
why are you doing this? So the effort pays off in the results that you get. I've had people ask me, well, how come you get these good gigs? How come you're always being invited to conventions? How come people want you to show up at a convention and sign autographs? And I'm like, because I worked my butt off to do these things and become known for these things and to become an expert on these things. And if you worked your butt off and if you became skilled in these areas, they would invite you to the damn convention too. So like, don't get mad at me because I spent all these years working in the film industry and now I have an expertise in things. It's really quite funny. So if my answer to you in the filmmaking community is this is the work that you have to do, then, take it or leave it, but don't be upset then when your fan film sucks or your prop sucks or you spend a lot of money making your movie and it looks like crap. Now the frustration is really coming out and I'm not being very positive, but it's just, it's...
I think in all fairness though, Wyatt, like if your fan film still sucks or your props suck and you leave it there, if you don't learn, because one of the things, I went to film school, I was lucky enough to go to UCLA. I mean, that's another story altogether, but, the very first film that I ever shot and directed sucks so badly. I just recently found a copy and I was showing it to my partner and I'm like, I can't watch this. And she's like, why? I go, I felt pressure to shoot on 16 mil. I wasn't ready. I spent all my money on that, right? Because I thought that was going to give me legitimacy. But what I learned was to have an experience shooting on film. And I then took that experience and then parlayed it into the next thing that still sucks, but it didn't suck as bad. And then I went and did another film, right? And shot on 16 mil. And then by that time, I threw myself in and I did, it's not a brag, but I remember people coming in going, what's Gayle doing? And they're like, he's learning how to thread a 16 mil film can in a change bag, because film is photosensitive and you can't do it in light. And normally when you're out, you can't kind of go and find a room and shut out the light. So what you do is you have a light change bag and you have to do everything by feel. So people were coming in and I happened to set myself up in a corner of where people were having, we have all our lectures because that was the only area we had. And people are coming in and they're seeing me perspiring profusely because I'm getting it wrong. And I'm doing it again and again and again and again. And what I didn't know at the time was, while people were making fun of me and they were like, why are you doing that? People were like, geez, this guy's serious. When I'm going to go and make my film, I want him working the camera because he has that skill.
Well,
and
if James Cameron, if Steven Spielberg, if George Lucas, if they stopped after their first film...
Your first films are going to suck. Just understand that. If you're out there listening
completely.
right now and you're a filmmaker, my first film sucked. Gil's first film sucked. Your first films will suck. But like Gil said, they will suck less over time, and then they'll get to a point where they're actually pretty good. I cannot emphasize enough that the project Gayle and I are working on right now is...
Don't talk about our project.
Gayle. The project
Do not talk about our secret project.
Working on right now, it's like going back to zero. It's almost literally like we're making a home movie. We're so back to basics on this thing, but we're back to basics now with all the skills that we've learned. So
Well, you were just saying last night that... What were you saying? That you did the Batman film because of everything you learned on 4-color.
Yes.
And then this one is a result of what you've learned on Batman.
Right. Yeah. They're all... Yeah.
You've got to step up. It's some... I always joke that you can't learn filmmaking until you make a film. Like, you can learn all the theory in the world, you can sit there and write all the essays in the world, and that's great. That gives you a nice foundation to work in that, area of your expertise or whichever area you want. But until you're on set, until it's all on you, right? That's the moment. I feel a little bit like Tony Stark in Avengers, like, but it's all on you, Loki, and there's no way you're going to win out of this. It's kind of a little bit like filmmaking in a lot of ways, because it's all on you. If it's a bad film, it's on you. If it's a good film, it's also on you. right? And, the humility that I walk in is, I'm going to do the best that I can, and I know it's going to suck. Because for me, the thing that I see in my head, though, is never going to be able to the skill in filmmaking is being able to transpose what's in your brain and create it into a real piece that you can share with people. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned about filmmaking is, you've got to. I'm just trying to work out the right word because I don't want to be too harsh with it, but you kind of got to negotiate everything. It's like, I want this, but I can do that. Like, how do I make that communicate what I want? Like, I want a hallway on a futuristic ship, but I've got 5 pieces of plastic and a camera. How do I creatively create enough to sell that idea? It's great. I would love for someone to go, Gil, you're a genius. You know what? We just got to deal with Paramount, and we've got $100 million to work on your film. Go. And I to be honest with you, I think my head would just go boom, because I'd be like, it's too many options. I need to get creative with limits. I need to know how far I can go and what it's going to be, because that now allows me to work out where those boundaries are and how much I can work through. When you tell me I got
5 films at $20 million a piece, can I do that?
The people have done that too. But at $100 million, I know what would happen. I'd be like, we're going to 3D print all the props. And I'd just spend a week with those guys, right?
I'm like, no!
I'd be like, and they'd be like, what's with the story? I'm like, no, dude, the story's another week. Don't worry about that. I've got 5 writers who are working on the story. And we're joking about it, but there is a system like that now in Hollywood, and you can see the results. It's technically, professionally amazing. But if you look back at the films, let's say in the 80s, right, especially those big Hollywood films, there's something missing out of the big budget films today. Yes, they're good rides, they're incredibly spectacular, but they're missing something that people can't really get their hands on exactly what it is. I think it's hard. I think it's actually the passion of the storyteller and the director coming through. I've always, and this is just a personal kind of motif, I'm like, whether I talk to someone or if I'm creating something, if my heart's not involved, it's gonna suck. It's going to get translated somewhere down the line. So if I'm sitting and interviewing someone, then I don't want to interview someone that I don't want to interview. I want to be right there going, this is an incredible opportunity, and I want that to be transmitted. I want the person on the other end to go, wow, okay, this guy's interviewing me, but there's more going on here. There might be a personal passion here, or there's something that I've done that has inspired, or maybe the technique's the same and it's learned. That creates kind of like almost like a resonance, so you transmit that passion, and then when you get the answer, it comes back in a really passionate way. And again, you can do that as a filmmaker. So some of the greatest films that I've seen have simply been people making films in their apartments, but they resonate in such a beautiful way because it's really important for what it is, and take away all the spectacular.
He's talking about our movie.
Yeah, of course.
No, honestly, we're drawing inspiration from...
Would you like me to name drop which films I felt that way? I believe there's a trilogy film that I saw that I really, really loved, and if you haven't seen it, see it on YouTube, that happens to talk about a topic that we're very passionate about, and is also very passionate for Wyatt. So there you go. Go check it out. Trilogy.
Trinity.
Trinity. Trilogy is another project I'm working on. Trinity. I'm sorry. It's the same. It's trilogy, Trinity. It's kind of the same.
It's a 3.
Yeah.
I love these sort of conversations. I mean, these are the conversations that are inspiring because there's a number of things that go on. If you're listening to this and you are a filmmaker, I'm sure you'll resonate with some of the things that we've spoken about. And it's nice to know you're not alone. Sometimes being an artist is very lonely because you can be surrounded by a whole lot of people, and if they don't understand where you're coming from, it's very isolating. So, to hear, I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm in awe with the work that both of you create. I mean, I've said it. If you happen to see posts on Facebook, every time you guys are working, every time you are working, every time you're working on a production, I'm like, I wish I was there. Or, hey, do you need a hand? And the truth of the matter is, if we were closer, I'd be there with bells on, because that's not work. That's actually going through the motions. And for me, I guess I've been in this so long that it wires me to, that fills my cup up. And I know that when we started this was about commitment. And right now I've got a bit of a problem here in Melbourne. The last project that I worked on fell through because people couldn't commit. They were going to be there, but when they turned up, they weren't committed. They weren't willing to go across that line. From actors to, I remember, even though my passion is cinematography and working on the camera, you can't really direct and be behind the camera if you've got to do other things on a low budget type project. Hey there, film lovers. I hope you're really enjoying this episode of Cinematic Perspective, but I wanted to take a moment out and share with you a brand new project I'm super excited about. It's called Spectacular Distraction, where I uncover hidden gems and forgotten classics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The movies and shows that shaped pop culture, but somehow slipped through the cracks. Remember those films that only aired once or twice, disappeared completely, but got stuck in your head? We'll find them, break them down. The rip-offs, the inspirations, and we'll go through and find out all the different pieces that are missing from cinema today. So if you're as obsessed with cinema and pop culture as I am, come on a nostalgic journey with me. Search for Spectacular Distraction on YouTube, hit subscribe, and never miss out on a hidden gem, deep dives, or iconic moments. Because everything else is just spectacular distraction. Well, you see, Wyatt's got you, Gayle. I don't have a Gayle that is willing to roll cameras and let them fall off tripods and sit in the back of cars. That, by the way, I showed that to my partner, and she's always like, I don't want to work with you on film stuff because if I do the wrong thing, you get upset. And I go, everyone gets upset. Even like when you see, they're like, ah, and I'm like, that wasn't like, Gayle, you did the wrong thing.
I
It was just
thought
like,
I was
beware.
pretty calm.
You were
given
amazing.
the fact
You were amazing.
that the camera just flipped off the dolly onto the floor,
my
I
gosh.
thought I was pretty calm.
Total side note here. We were at a convention this past weekend, and one of the convention kids comes up to me and he goes, "Oh, I felt so bad for you when I saw that camera fall." I'm like, "Oh my God, these kids at the convention follow
You guys
us enough
are famous.
on Facebook." Yeah.
Well, at least we have a following.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that wanted to go, sandbag. You got to sandbag everything. I got it drilled into my head. When I was at UCLA, they used to be like, when you hand over a lens, you don't let go of it. You say to the person, "Got it?" And when they say "got it," then you let go. And I've done that with children where I'm like, "Got it?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course I got it." I'm like, "No, tell me you got it because I'm not letting go. You can't afford to break this."
What do you think this is, a lens? What is this?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, people are like, "What?" But, it's an amazing thing to be in those spaces and to be incredibly creative and then also pull together. It's filmmaking. I know you guys are working on a film together and it's just you because of COVID, but generally filmmaking is a collaborative event. And I
very much want to acknowledge that we're doing it
as an experiment.
I mean, I've done a lot of collaboration on a lot of films over a very long career now. I've earned one where I get to say, screw all you people, I'm sick of dealing with you. I'm just going to work with my wife because she's here every day. We can work on this. Yeah, it's a break from the regular routine. But collaboration, you need collaboration. This is a special circumstance.
Absolutely.
Collaboration is key. It really is.
I'm thinking the only way I'm going to get a crew now is if I have lots of kids and just start putting equipment in their hands the minute they can walk. I mean, I'm like, here's my crew.
I know people whose children are their crew. I don't always agree with it because ultimately you have teenagers on set and that always leads to issues. But I know people whose children are their crew. And, they get stuff done. So, you're going to have to start reproducing, Gil. Yeah, you just have to start reproducing.
My favorite saying right now is, it's fornicate to replicate for the film. It's like, that's what you got to do.
But then the names are all figured out because it's like, well, Gil, what do you want to name them? Well, that's Grip. That's Electric.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's First AC.
Best Boy.
Yeah. That's Crafty. That's Crafty. Yeah, I mean the names are all set. It's all done.
Can you just imagine a fight like the kids like getting all upset with you, and that's why I didn't make you the DP because you're terrible. Like, get out of here. It's like, I like DP better than I like you because you're just.
You
the
don't
best
get to
boy.
produce tomorrow. You go. You
Yeah.
stay in your room. You don't get to produce tomorrow.
No, it's a funny thing.
You used the word passion earlier, and one of the things like this week we've been working on getting Guardian of the Realm all finalized, and so we've got this convention coming up, and we want to make sure that we've got DVDs for that. So we kind of put the film aside so that we could finish up Guardian.
And it was killing me. It was killing me.
It was that whole I want to get back to doing our production. So,
But if you stop and think about
What's
I'm
a
not-
DVD?
What's a DVD? It's
Yeah,
physical media.
DVD?
You know, when you're at a convention and people need something physical to buy in the moment so that they can have you sign something, and yes, half these people go and put that DVD on the shelf and never watch it and then stream it on Amazon. But the irony, and this is why I'm so happy with my life right now, is it's like I'm not as wealthy as I'd like to be, I'm not as famous as I'd like to be, but I'm being forced to work on mastering the DVD of this movie that our company made. And I'm frustrated with the fact that I have to stay up late at night working on artwork for menus and DVD sleeve covers, and Gayle's trying to make the 3D title work and trying to get the DVD mastering done. And gosh, if we could just get this DVD film project off our plate so we could get back to our own indie feature. These are good problems.
these are good
to
problems.
have.
We're not
Oh,
sitting in
yeah.
a cubicle under fluorescent
It
lighting
wasn't like, oh my
somewhere.
God, my manager at the bank won't give me time off so I can shoot a scene this weekend. It was like, oh my gosh, one creative
Endeavor,
thing,
yeah.
endeavor is like getting in the way of doing another creative endeavor. Oh my gosh, what will I ever do? It's all good. And sometimes
The
I lay down at
filmmaking
night.
gods have blessed you completely. Like,
They really
seriously,
have.
there are people out there who would be crying not to have those issues. I have a quote that I used to put on emails that says, "My God is Cecil B. DeMille, and he kills for the fun of it," right? But I mean, like your filmmaking god is like, have so much work that you've got to go and parlay a final product that you're going to be able to take and you're going to be able to sell and you're going to be able to rejuvenate. And I'm excited to see what it's going to look like because I'm familiar with it already. And you know, it's just so amazing to hear what, you know, again, a boo-hoo.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we know
Okay,
that.
so-
We totally know that.
So yesterday, after we got the DVD aside, and we're doing a shot, and this shot, it's like the end shot of the movie, and it's out on a country road in the middle of nowhere because it's supposed to be very isolated, and the camera's dollying sideways, and my truck comes around the corner, and it pulls off the side of the road as the camera comes to a stop, and I get out, and I'm contemplating life, the universe, and everything, and we're shooting this scene, and Gayle's operating the dolly and shooting.
did not
I'm
drop it
driving.
off the-
We're communicating by cell phones. So I would then pull the truck up. How'd that go? Oh, give me another take. I'd say, okay. I'd drive back out down the road, turn around in the driveway. And when I turned around in the driveway, like a quarter mile down, I'd pull out my cell phone, call her, and say, are you ready? Yeah, I'm all set. Is there any traffic coming your way? No. Is there any traffic coming your way? No. Okay, roll camera. And then we'd communicate. And like as I approached the point where the truck would come into view, I'd say, and I'm coming into view now. And I'd put my phone down and I'd drive and I'd enter the shot. At one point, I took off to go reset and my phone rang immediately. And it was her calling me just to go, I'm having so much fun. This is so cool. I'm having so much fun. So good problems to have. Really good
Oh
problems to
yeah.
have.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, you guys are inspirational. And you know, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, two things are going to come out of this film. Either they're going to be stronger together or they're going to be totally apart. I'd be like, how
You know, I was
camera-
expecting a little bit of conflict. I really was.
Sure.
It's actually been pretty conflict-free.
It really has.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of go at each other on set sometimes because when you're tired and you're exhausted and
Of course.
you start the whatever it is that aggravates you a little about somebody on set will aggravate you like 10 times more. And there have been times on set where by about day 30, I'm like, please don't say that to me again. Please don't say that to me again. None of that on this. It's just
Well, you
she
told
and
me
I.
never to say that again. Also.
Well, but it doesn't mean you'll stop. Doesn't mean you'll. I've told you not to say a lot of things to me again, and you do it anyway.
The phrase, by the way, is okay. What are we doing next?
Yeah. But anyway.
Because I say it
Fair
a
enough.
lot.
But
And
anyway.
As the
No, it's
producer,
been-
you're trying to move things across. I get it.
yeah.
It's been an amazingly calm process. It's been really our inspiration and
Yeah.
is there's a filmmaker named David F. Sandberg, and David F. Sandberg
Yeah.
he directed, the big thing he directed was Shazam.
And
But-
one of the Annabelle films?
One of the Annabelle Creation, maybe. And then I think he did a feature film version called Lights Out, which was like a feature-length version of his short film that he did. But then, even after having directed Shazam, like during the COVID lockdown, he and his wife just kind of went back to their apartment and started making horror short films again. And this guy is so matter of fact and so cool, and he reminds me of all the stuff I forgot. You know, like I look through an old issue of Cinemagic or an old issue of Cinefantastique or Cinefex, and I remember back to the old days of the 70s and the 80s, and I remember all these old filmmaking techniques, and I kind of get regrounded. David F. Sandberg grounds me. David F. Sandberg he takes me back to the basics, and he goes, why does this have to be any more complex than this? And then he shows you how he did it, and he kind of took me back to, I have a camera, you have a barn.
What are you doing this weekend?
We're both free this weekend. Let's make a movie. Only now we're doing it with this lifetime of skills that we've built up. So now it's like, let's make a movie in the barn this weekend with skills.
Yeah.
And it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't suck. So
I don't know. I haven't seen the film yet.
that's true.
true.
You have not.
This is true.
And it might. It might.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the whole point. It's all a journey. It's like, you look at, let's say, the George Lucases and the Steven Spielbergs. I will guarantee you, well, let's take George Lucas. We know that he felt Star Wars wasn't complete. It wasn't what he wanted because he came back later and did the special editions and continually touches it. And there you go. You've got a film that came out of the barn, using your words just there, all right, and changed the face of cinema for all of us, right?
Right.
And still feels there's something there that I wasn't able to do. So as a filmmaker, the job is never complete. There's always something. And again, you were talking about Ted Smith and how he felt about Guardian of the Realms. So it's just part and parcel. I know that I always look at it and I'm like, you know what? Let me go 3D print something. No, let me go and build something, and I can put this shot in there, and I can go and fix this up, and I'm gonna go and do this, and I'm gonna do that, and there's another hard kind of lesson you need to learn, which is this project is done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's done. Otherwise, you can let them go on forever, and then you never move on to the next project. So there's some skills. I mean, it's a lot of fun talking about this with you guys.
Steven Spielberg, I want to get the quote right. He was talking about, and I think this was like liner notes on a DVD, or it was something, it was about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And Steven Spielberg said he only got like 50% of what he wanted, but that was about 95% more than he thought was possible. So, yeah, he was saying, I didn't get everything I wanted, but I had no idea of the things that were going to be able to be done. And I thought that was a great quote because, yeah, you never get everything you want, but sometimes you get what you need. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
They're gonna because of that we're gonna have to pay royalties now.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, like, come on, man, this sort of stuff. You can't use this in
But
this.
there's like a bars, like a certain number of bars you can. Yeah.
We'll
anyway.
bleep him out.
There's a funny story in Superbad, which was the breakthrough film, and now I forgot the name. The SNL guy, Bill Hader. So there's a scene at the end where they're driving a police car and they're gonna wreck it because they're gonna get rid of it, and he starts singing the song Panama. And they had no plan, and he's in the car, and he's like, Panama! Da-da. And they're like, holy smokes, we gotta now go get the credits for this, because we can't, we had one shot, we had one car, it got destroyed. And there's Bill Hader just, ad-libbing, and they're like, do we have the rights for this? How are we gonna do this? And it's like, so I always thought that was really fun.
There are parts
like,
in the
don't
movie
sing.
that she and I are making right now, Dark at the Top of the Stairs. I have things ticking in my head sometimes as the actor in the film that I don't do because I know, there's tributes and there's little things you can borrow and steal.
Sure.
And I'm stealing lines from things and I'm acknowledging, because I'm I have a kind of a monologue going in the film, and sometimes I say things out loud. And some of it's just funny and some of it's tributes. Like you as a film fan will go, oh, I know what he's referencing there. But no, there have been times where I've wanted to walk around the house and just break into a song and during a scene, and it's like, Yeah, if it was the $100 million film that Paramount lets you do, great.
Right.
We'll sort that out after the fact. On our little film, it's like our budget's not broken $100 yet. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking at the time, and we've gone a little long, but it's always, it's so much fun to be able to go and talk with this. Guys, I want to thank you. I know that you've not only had a work job, but then you've also got your production stuff. So, there was a question whether or not we were going to get together this week, but you know what? I'm glad we have. I always say I'm very selfish. Anytime to talk to the two of you, I'm like, it's awesome. It's awesome. I've now refilled my creative cup for the rest of the week, and now I'll have to go and deal with the people who are like, you can't do that.
Our
You
job
can't
here is
do
done.
it.
Our job here, we've
You know?
we've refilled Gil's well of creative inspiration.
That's right.
So, yeah. No, this is fun. This is fun.
I'm very worried when people see the video of that. The movements were like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
We just got flagged by YouTube. I'm sure it is. Awesome. I know that we've got some other things that we want to share with all of you. We're really looking forward to it. So if you enjoy this, or even if you don't enjoy it, if you've come to this point in the podcast, you deserve it to yourself to go and hit that subscribe button on wherever platform you get your podcast from. We are also on YouTube, so go and check it out if you're curious what these voices look like. There's no CGI, there's no special effects. We are who we are, right? That not me, that's you. And you know what? Come and hang out with us on Facebook, on Twitter, on all those social media platforms. We love to hear feedback from what we're talking about. Does things resonate to you? Like, have you had experience that are similar? Share those stories with us, because you know what? When it comes to the journey of filmmaking, whether you're watching, whether you're creating, whether you're just going down to the cinema with friends, it's a collective experience, and we love it when you share your experiences with us as we share our cinematic perspective here with you every week. Guys, love hanging out with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
See you guys next time.
We'll see you soon, Gil. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Will you? I don't know. I'm scared you're going to be like, we're never doing that again with him. He's crazy. But no, it's all good. I'll catch
We
you
got
guys.
into
Have a
this
great
knowing
week.
you were crazy.
I know. You knew that from AFM. Let's be honest about it. Look forward to hearing about the next steps in your film, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week.
Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.